Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Louis Black retiring at the end of the year. He says, I have other things I want to do. I enjoy it all, but I've always liked stand-up the most because it allows me to write, direct, and act. And I've always loved that the ultimate arbiter of any performance has been the audience and not some producer or executive producer. Louis tells us anyone who's over the age of 65 says these are the best years of your life, and you could take the back of your hand and slap them as hard as you can. Aging sucks. There's nothing fun about it. Your close friends call and they tell you they went to the doctor today, and then you just wait for the other shoe to drop. It's just so awful. Nikki Glaser, she's getting ready to host the Golden Globes on Sunday. She tells Entertainment Weekly she's on the C list, and I say that with so much love for myself. I'm fine with that. I'm a comedian. If I wasn't hosting, I wouldn't be there. There's no other way for me to be there except maybe as a seat filler. Not entirely true. She's nominated for Best Comedy Special. She explains her approach. I have to say who I am first. I have to be a little softer and more self-deprecating, because I'm not as well known. I can't just come out swinging. They'll be like, who's this lady and why does she think she has a right to talk to us this way? I can't come in with the same annihilating venom as I did at the Tom Brady roast. With status comes the ability to punch harder. She did seek out advice from Ricky Gervais, who told her, you aren't them, you're a comedian. They're A-list movie stars. Remember that. Do what you do. Don't try to be them. Don't trick yourself into thinking you're better than you are. She says, I like that, because I always perform best when I shake that delusion off. I'm not a movie star. I just want to have a comedian that night. Then by the third time I'm hosting, I can have a scorch earth monologue. All right, I'm going to give you some advice, Nikki, because I know you're a big fan of Taylor Swift. What you don't want to do during your monologue, you don't want to joke about Taylor Swift, because last year, Joe Coy told a joke about Taylor Swift, and she gave him a death stare, and it killed the room, and then everybody said Joe Coy did a bad job hosting, and I don't agree with that. I think that meanie Taylor Swift iced Joe Coy. Let's listen back to that moment.
As you know, we came on after a football doubleheader. The big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL, on the Golden Globes, we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift. I swear. There's just more to go to here. Sorry about that.
You have plans for tonight? NBC is airing Day Drinking with Seth Meyers. Now, I like Seth Meyers at all, but of all the things you could do tonight, that's not the choice. I mean, even if you're home watching TV, just go with the Ryan Seacrest thing. It's basic. Just do that. Why would you watch Day Drinking with Seth Meyers? Really? It's an hour-long look back at the best of Meyers' drunken interactions with Rihanna, Post Malone, Kevin Hart, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Lizzo, Dua Lipa. It'll air from 11:30 to 12:35. NBC's not trying. Why should you? Then at 12:35, NBC's trying even less. They're going to air E! News Presents NBC's Hot 10 of 2024, a one-hour special hosted by some folks from E! News. Jimmy Fallon, Dolly Parton, and Andy Cohen appear on the E! special. CBS, watch the CBS show. 5 hours of country music, New Year's Eve Live, Nashville's Big Bash. It's not comedy, but that's fun. ABC has the traditional Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest. That's not bad. CNN, Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen, they usually get a little loose on their show. You could watch that. Or, you could have friends. You could watch movies. You could play video games. You could watch some comedy specials. I'm just saying, the Seth Meyers thing's got to be pretty far down your list. Oh, you could watch Michelle Bateau. She's got a new special tonight. Why don't you watch that? Michelle Bateau, A Bateauful Mind, recorded in Radio City back in June. She reflects on motherhood and marriage, all while sipping rosé through a straw. She told the LA Times, I have other stuff I do, but I love stand-up. I love connecting with people, and now we're actually wearing pants and heels, and I'm like, oh, the time is now. We're just up. Let's go. I love talking about my life, but finding a balance is important, having the utmost respect for people in your life and not using them as fodder all the time, but definitely speaking about them in a more universal, bigger picture way is something that will always sort of inspire me. She spoke to the Hollywood Reporter about the choice of venue and said, sometimes I watch a special and I'm not inspired. I'm like, where are you? You could be in Ohio, you could be in Kansas, I don't know. And because Netflix has such a reach, 190 countries around the world, I want people to feel like, look, when you watch a special with me, it's going to be a New York City night, whether you can afford to come here or not. I just love when the world feels small and big at the same time. But I'd never headlined Radio City before, and when I walked in to tour it, I was like, oh, this place is magical. It's calling me. And I asked the people who were taking us to tour the place what other female comedians have taped their specials here, and they were like, none. Females have headlined here, but no one's taped a special. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm in. The Hollywood Reporter said, presumably it's very expensive to book and hard to fill. Michelle said, oh, yeah, any other agent or manager would have told their client, go somewhere else, save the money. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but you pay for production out of your fees. Usually you go to a theater that's fewer seats. That way you can do 2 shows, an early show and a late show. In case you don't get what you want, you can mix and match the edit. But with Radio City Music Hall, it's like, okay, I only got the one show and I can barely afford the one show, but I also felt this is bigger than me. And also, like, how come no one else has done this before? I think you answered your own question. Money. The answer is always money. Any question in showbiz that makes no sense, the answer is always money. They asked her about mentioning her family in her material, and she said, 20, 30, 50 years from now, if somebody looks back on this, are they going to be wildly hurt and embarrassed? Or are they going to say, oh, she was going through a lot of stuff and she was living her truth and she made history and money? Are there jokes you do in comedy clubs you don't do on a Netflix special? 100%. I mean, I did a 20-city tour last year, and there's a lot of stuff that I didn't put in the special. There are things you should only hear live where it shouldn't be recorded. And you get to speak your truth and say that nasty little thing you only get away with at a 2-drink minimum. And then you figure out what you can say on a platform like Netflix that will live forever. Spoiler. Mid-show, you take a dig at Chappelle. Why? Michelle said, I've always been an inclusive person, and especially with comedy or anything in the arts, we have to speak truth to power. I don't understand why we get to make fun of and punch down and berate on beautiful communities, because the world is changing and we should change along with it. I mean, that's what should happen. Change isn't linear, but as performers, we also have the power to move that needle. And quite frankly, I really wish more performers that have a bigger platform than me would also speak out, because it's a reason why an injustice will happen for so long. No one's calling it out. And if we have an opportunity to not only call it out, but also make it funny and then pay taxes on it and make some money, it's a win-win. And look, I've gone to so many protests and I've done a lot of hashtagging on social media, but I feel like if I really want to make people think about something, I'm going to have to sneak the vegetables into the meal like I do with the kids. I've got to sneak in my wokeness with some hilarity so you repeat it back to your friend at the water cooler on a Monday morning and hopefully learn something. Melissa Villasenor will have a special tomorrow. It is called Welp, What Now? That'll be on YouTube tomorrow, January 1st. On this feed, tomorrow, January 1st, you will hear my interview with Mike Chisholm. Mike Chisholm actually interviewed me. I was the guest on the Letterman podcast, but Mike was cool and said I could repurpose the audio and take a day off, so I did. If you're in Canada, the CBC has restored its New Year's Eve celebration. A 1-hour special called 22 Minutes New Year's Eve Pregame Special. It features the cast of the political series. This hour has 22 minutes. It will be followed by Canada Live, Countdown 2025. People were mad at the CBC last year because some cost cutting. They didn't bother. They just aired a pre-taped Just for Laughs special hosted by Mae Martin. The Charlotte Observer asked Sarah Silverman, are you a Jerry Seinfeld type where every word is important, or are you more someone who outlines your set and kind of goes with it? Sarah said, I'm never tied to a script at all. It's not like a written monologue. There's all things I learned from the audience. You know, some jokes can bomb or kill depending on all kinds of factors. You realize, oh, I need to have a pause here. I need a tiny word here, or they need a little more information, or they need much less information, or the setup is too heavy for the lightness of the punchline. There's all this chemistry. You get beakers of jokes, and you're adding and taking away all that stuff until you figure out what works best, and you'll never get the perfect version, but I'm a really meticulous, slow honer. That's why I can't watch my specials once they're done. It's too frustrating. At a certain point, you just got to put it out on tape or digital, whatever it's called. You got to record it and kiss it goodbye because it can't all fit in my head. And I think with that, that's your comedy news for the year. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like the program too. Have a very safe New Year's Eve. I hope you and your family had a good 2024. I hope you have an even better 2025. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening every single day to this podcast. It means a lot to me. It's a lot of fun for me to do. So happy New Year to us all. Tomorrow's an 1.5 episodes. If you have nothing to do on New Year's Day, we'll keep you company with that normal episode on Thursday. Tomorrow is an 1.5 episode. It's me guesting on the Letterman podcast. So if you have nothing to do tomorrow, now you do. Happy New Year.